Hello, my name is Liz and you're watching For Booking Out Loud. So, kind of in the theme of my last video, I am doing a quarterly review of kind of my reading for the first 3 months of this year. And I see myself kind of doing these every quarter from now on, so every 3 months. And so this video is kind of my review of the nonfiction books I read for January, February, and March, majority of March. And I'm a little bit disappointed with myself. In preparation for this video, I went over all of the nonfiction books I've read this quarter, and I only read 10, which I could have sworn I read more, but clearly that is false. And out of those 10 books, I really only enjoyed 6 of them. So I'm just gonna review them from the one that I liked the most to the one that I liked the very least. And honestly, the bottom 4 are kind of in this mosh pile of do not read for me. But let's just get into it. My nonfiction review of the first quarter of 2021. So, to no one's surprise, if you've been watching and keeping up with my channel, my first nonfiction, number 1 total, is going to be Cannibalism by Bill Schutt. Honestly, this book is phenomenal. It has so much information jam-packed into it, plus it is very quirky and tells you all you need to know about not only animal cannibalism, but human cannibalism as well. And it's just delivered in a way that I personally really appreciate. So, I'm weird. It's a weird topic. I appreciate it. What can I say? Number 2 is going to be Becoming by Michelle Obama. It was a reread nonfiction for me. I recently read Barack Obama's new book, and so I had to read Michelle Obama's book as well. And I loved it. I mean, why would I reread it if I didn't like it, right? Number 3 is going to be Dead Mountain by Donnie, Eichar. And this was a book that I picked up because I saw it first on Sunny Luca's channel. And I know I saw it on someone else's channel and I just can't remember right now. But this was a story that really intrigued me. It's something I had no idea what it was about, really, in this mystery. Like I said, it just intrigued me. And so listening to Sunny Luca talk about it, I just wanted to pick it up. And Sunny Luca doesn't traditionally pick up nonfiction, so for this to be a nonfiction that she picked up, I just really wanted to figure it out for myself. And I'm really glad I did. I have to admit that I thought it would be more on the side of telling the story of, well, let's just get into it. I forgot to tell you what it was about. It is about the Dyatlov Pass incident, or I think it was from the 50s or the 40s. Wow, now I'm forgetting. But it was back when Russia was the Soviet Union, and this group of hikers, very experienced hikers actually, went into Siberia in the middle of winter. It shouldn't really have been a big deal for them, but all of a sudden, they died in this very mysterious way, and it's been this huge kind of legend since they died because they're just mysteriously dead, and in a very suspicious manner, really. And so this book kind of goes over not only their narrative, like what were the last people they talked to, what were their last memories, and one of them actually had a camera and was a very good photographer, and so there's a lot of pictures of their last couple of days as well. And so you have all these pictures that go with it. And then you also have the author's experience trying to figure out for himself on what happened to these hikers. And it's just a very interesting story. I highly suggest it. That's all I'm going to say. I highly suggest the book too, just because of all the pictures that accompany the book. That's my take on it. All right. So number 4 is going to be Humans by Brandon Stanton. And if you've ever heard of Humans of New York, it was a Facebook and an Instagram channel. Still ongoing, by the way. This is his second book that was released, and it's heartwarming. I love the tales. I just highly suggest it, point blank. Number 5 is going to be Survival Math by Mitchell S. Jackson. And reading it and looking back on it now, it is a really interesting book. I don't know if I would have picked it up now knowing what it is exactly about. Not that it makes it any less amazing. It's just different, and it's just not usually what I would lean towards. It's a series of essays that Mitchell S. Jackson wrote about being a Black man growing up in America. And it really leans into what it means to survive as a Black man. And recently I did a conference where he was talking about it, the book in particular, and what inspired him to write it. And it makes a lot more sense now, and it brings to light a lot of these essays that he wrote. And I'm not saying, again, that they're bad, but I'm more of a long narrative kind of person rather than short essays. And so that's why it didn't really resonate well. And clearly they're not for me, but it just didn't really resonate with me. They're really good though. So I do suggest, if you're an essay kind of person and you're really interested on race in America, this is a great book to pick up. He is a very eloquent writer, and it's just one thing in particular that I did really enjoy about this book is that he asked relatives to pinpoint a defining moment in their life, and he wrote their story in there. So it's not just his point of view, but he takes multiple point of views and incorporates it into his book. So that was powerful, to say the least. All right. And then the last book, not the least book, but the last book that I enjoyed this month is going to be Humans of New York by Brandon Stanton, which is the first book that he released that is a companion piece to his Humans of New York social media campaign. Does it count as if it's a campaign? I don't know. But it's beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous. Always suggest it. All right. And then the final 4 are books that I would not suggest that I still read, and I would have to say I don't enjoy them at all. The one that I just wanted to start with is How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. I know this is one that was very popular, especially because a lot of people, if not the whole world, went into lockdown earlier last year, late last year, whatever, last year. And so this is Jenny Odell's argument almost onto why doing nothing and I guess hustle culture isn't necessarily the best way to live your life. And she had some interesting points, but at the same time, it just wasn't sold and it just wasn't entertaining to me, point blank. And then along the same lines was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson. And it's very similar to How to Do Nothing. It's that self-help kind of book, and he's arguing on why to live your life to the fullest. You just shouldn't care about certain things, or to pick and choose what you should care about. I wasn't entertained, and I kind of got the feeling that he was very pretentious in this book, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. All right, number 9 on this list was my most recent nonfiction read, and it was The Art of Resilience by Mark Edgley. And it is what I thought was going to be his story of swimming all around the island that houses UK, Scotland, and Ireland. Did he swim around Ireland too? That main landmass, at least. He swam all around it. And I believe he was the first man to do it or the fastest man to do it. One of those two. And I thought this was going to be more of his story on how he did it rather than how you can do it as well. But it definitely took on the latter part of that. It was, again, a self-help book and just how you can be a better you, right? So I'm feeling a trend, to say the least, on me and self-help books are not the most compatible, to say the least. And I should really stop picking them up. Or at least for now. And then the very last book, and the one that I think no one should ever pick up, is Pure Drivel by Steve Martin. It was like it was an autobiography within a series of essays that he did. And it was really like a novella. It wasn't truly a novel. Trying to think of something nice to say about that book it's not good. It's just not good. There's a lot of things I think are wrong with it. He's very misogynistic in that book, and there was a couple of racial things that I found kind of wrong with it, but more on the misogynistic things that I thought were wrong with it. I just read it and I did not feel right even reading it. So yeah. And I know it was released, 20 years ago or something at this point, but still not okay with that. I hope he's moved past what he wrote then. That's all I'm gonna say. And I know he was trying to be funny, but even then, humor can be better than what that was. And that's where I'm gonna leave that. That's all I'm gonna leave that. As I enter the next quarter, I think one of the goals I'm gonna have is to read more than 10 nonfiction books and to try to read, I guess, better books. I want to read more than six nonfiction books that I actually enjoy rather than 4 that I hated, if that makes any sense. So like maybe overall 10 is a good number, but like 10 that I actually enjoy instead of 4 that I hated and 6 that I enjoyed for April, May, and June. So here's hoping. If you recently have read a really good nonfiction, please shout it out in the comments so that I might be able to pick it up too, because I don't know what it is. I just haven't been feeling nonfiction recently, which has been a problem because I usually love nonfiction. Maybe I just need to find the right one. So please give a great nonfiction a shout out, and I want to enjoy it too. But I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh gosh. I can't believe that's going. If you've recently